Everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies in the month of July of 2023. I'm talking exclusively about Criterion releases, and it's coinciding with the Barnes & Noble half price sale, which will continue on to July 28th. So I'm going to talk about some classic films in my collection that I've never talked about before that are Criterion releases, but also titles that I have picked up in the sale, and which I did with Double Indemnity. This came out in 4K UHD a couple months ago. It is the classic film noir of all time, so it's both a classic title in the collection, to be sure, but it's also a recent release. And it stars, this is from 1944, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Fred McMurray, Edward G. Robinson. Billy Wilder directed it. He wrote the screenplay along with Raymond Chandler, and there's a great story there. Chandler, the author of the Philip Marlowe novels The Big Sleep, had just come out. Wilder was looking for a screenwriter because his longtime partner Charles Brackett read James M. Cain's novella of Double Indemnity and found it way too sordid for his taste. Wilder needed a collaborator. I'm not sure exactly how Brackett and his relationship went as far as the dialogue. I've read actors say Charlie Brackett's dialogue was so fantastic, and so Wilder probably, because English wasn't his first language, probably relied a great deal on his collaborators for the dialogue. And if Double Indemnity, probably everybody who's listening to this has seen this film. Is certainly one of the most famous films of all time, so I'm not going to talk too much about the plot. But just as a generally speaking, it's about a married woman, Phyllis Dietrichson, and an insurance agent, Walter Neff. This is Stanwyck and Fred McMurray. He comes to her house to renew an auto insurance policy of her husband's, and she sizes him up pretty quick as somebody she might be able to use. And so she suggests, well, maybe my husband needs an accident policy. Walter Neff also sizes her up very quickly. He said, baby, you'll never get away with it. But lust intervenes here, love, lust. So eventually they do conspire to commit what Walter Neff believes would be the perfect murder. And who would know better than an insurance agent? So it's a classic story of the femme fatale, the murder of the husband, using a man, a sort of like who could be called a chump, somebody to be used, somebody who she needs to gain what she wants, which is the proceeds of a accident policy that would pay, in certain circumstances, would pay double. That's the Double Indemnity. So we have the femme fatale, we have the chump, and the McMurray part is the role is similar. There's a through line, especially to some of other Billy Wilder's male characters, protagonists, who get their morality, their sense of morality gets all screwed up. And again, is it love or lust? Fred McMurray seems to fall in love with Walter Neff falls in love with Phyllis's anklet. He's obsessed with her anklet. And in these opening scenes between McMurray and Stanwyck, we get this hard-boiled patter. He's always calling her baby. And this is, words are great in Wilder movies. Words, words, words. He was a screenwriter, director who insisted that the actors follow the words precisely. So his collaborators would be on the set with the script, making sure that every word is exactly as it is in the script. This is 180 degrees different than the last film I talked about, which was The Rules of the Game, when Jean Renoir composed his film on set and would write dialogue for specific actors. And and they were encouraged to provide some improvisational dialogue themselves. But Wilder was always obsessed with American lingo, even back in the days when he was in Berlin. He loved American movies. He loved the way Americans talk, the rhythm of their speeches, and here he gets this hard-boiled patter of Pulp Fiction. And The Postman Always Rings Twice was James M. Cain's first novel. Was written in the 30s and it was a big success. And then he wrote Double Indemnity, a novella, basically for the movies, but the production code said no way. And then also Raymond Chandler's books as well are very much the inspiration for film noir, as far as the outlines of its hard-boiled dialogue. Now, Chandler and Wilder had a stormy relationship. Charles Brackett, his longtime screenwriter, did not want to write the screenplay. Searching around, he was given The Big Sleep, which had just been published, a Philip Marlowe novel, and he loved it. And then he couldn't wait to meet Raymond Chandler. He thought, boy, this is going to be fantastic. And Wilder was so disappointed. He was Chandler would look like an accountant. In fact, you can see him. He's briefly seen sitting on a bench outside of Keyes' Edward G. Robinson's office, and we see Fred McMurray come out of the office, go down the hallway, and that actually is Raymond Chandler sitting on the bench there. And he was alcoholic. He stank, in Billy Wilder's opinion. Chandler's opinion, Wilder, he couldn't stand him either with the cigar and the hat. He wore a hat inside. And one time he quit. But Wilder understood that he needed him for this particular project, that he would be perfect in creating that hard-boiled pattern that Wilder was after here, and his love of American language and the rhythms of speech. So this is a film also that contrasts the sunniness of Southern California. The outdoor scenes are bathed in light. And then we go inside and it's dark. So this is the darkness that lurks behind the walls of the placid peacefulness of Southern California. And it's photographed by John Seitz. Some of the most influential photography. It sets the mood for the entirety of film noir. The shadows of the blinds, for instance, a cliche, becomes a cliche through the years, but wasn't a cliche in 1944. Of course, they didn't understand that they were beginning a genre that would endure in popularity for decades to come. Nicholas Rosa's music. This edition has lots of supplements and a couple of new supplements, and nowhere in the supplements, and even in the commentary, I don't think, I might have missed it, is Nicholas Rosa's music here, which is just doom-laden. And from the opening scenes, this is a story told in flashback, so we see Walter zigzagging his car through a nighttime LA, going through stop signs and red lights, with this doomed, beautiful, haunting score by Nicholas Rosa here, which really sets the mood for this film. And then we get one of the most criticized elements of the film is Barbara Stanwyck's wig, and it's very distracting. It's meant to look fake. That's what Billy Wilder intended. The executives at Paramount, when they saw this wig, they said, geez, we hired Barbara Stanwyck and we got George Washington. And she has sunglasses here, but you really need to follow her eyes. Her eyes here are fantastic. The way she sizes up Walter Neff when she first meets him, the image of her face during the murder scene, we don't see anything. We see her face, and she just pulls that off so beautifully. And in Dolby Vision, it's just luminous, and Stanwyck does so much with her eyes. You have to watch them because they're a key to really understanding her personality. And and Wilder, of course, is known for his cynicism, his language. His protagonist, Fred McMurray, very much in line with many of other Wilder's male protagonists, and Joe Gillis in Sunset Boulevard, and Kirk Douglas in The Big Carnival. I forget the actual name of it. The first time I saw it was The Big Carnival, and even Jack Lemmon in the Schlemiel in The Apartment. These are men who have secrets. They're yearning for success, and Wilder saw the American the American society, the ultimate capitalist society, is that everybody is yearning for success, and you'll do anything to get success, money. So this is his view, Wilder's sort of love of America, which he definitely had, but he, as an outsider, could see some things in America, some of the darkness of America that perhaps Americans understandably might overlook. And Wilder was also great at fighting against the code. I think he is one of those directors that really kind of benefited from the code in some weird way, because as in the death scene that I just mentioned, he in his depiction of lust, because what is this relationship between Walter Neff and Phyllis Dietrichson? What is it? You know, it's basically, they seem to be playing movie characters. They seem to be playing archetypes. But so Wilder was forced, as many directors were, to come up with creative ways to get around the code. And if you look at his career, the pinnacle of his success was probably The Apartment in 1960. As the code faded away, Billy Wilder's relevance seemed to fade away as well. He made some good films after The Apartment, to be sure. He was unable in the last 20 years of his life. He had real difficulty getting films financed. He needed the Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon duo to get some of his later films financed. But he was a great wit, and he was the wit of Hollywood. And he had a circle of friends, and one of them was Richard Schickel, who provides the commentary on this release. And it's a very sleepy commentary. There's a bunch of other commentaries floating around on Double Indemnity. This is probably the weakest of all of them. But again, he does have some pretty good stories because he knew Billy Wilder. And he mentioned something, and I haven't mentioned Edward G. Robinson. Edward G. Robinson is the claims man. So he's the one that evaluates at this insurance company Walter Neff works, these keys. This is really not just a love story, if it's love, between Phyllis and Walter, but there's Keyes in there, because Keyes views Walter as a son, as a protege. He has some great lines. Edward G. Robinson, one of his great parts, roles that he played, and especially there's a scene where he recites in a rat-a-tat kind of rhythm, the actuarial tables of suicide from an insurance point of view, which is just amazing. Long speech. Again, words, but it comes from the novel. Now, I believe that the movie is much better than the novel, especially the ending. The ending in the book is absolutely bizarre. But he does that. Some of the dialogue in the book is in the movie, and Schickel reminded me that great speech by Robinson is from James M. Cain's book, which I think Wilder and Raymond Chandler really improved upon. So there's a commentary, Richard Schickel commentary, which is from about 2004, and a couple new features, the best of which is a conversation between Eddie Muller and Imogen Sarah Smith, in which they discuss the lasting value of Double Indemnity, how it fits into the whole film noir situation. They both of them believe that Double Indemnity is the movie. This is the movie that invented a whole genre. if it didn't invent it, it was the greatest, had the greatest impact on the future of film noir. Great shot of Fred McMurray mulling over his fall from grace. And then this is a fold-out booklet, and it's not a booklet, it's a fold-out, and it's called The Black Heart of Double Indemnity. I didn't understand this essay. I understood some of it, but it wasn't. It was one of those things where academic takes trendy ideologies of today and grafts it onto a film from 80 years ago. Definitely worth reading, anyways. I just finished a book on Barbara Stanwyck a couple weeks ago. Victoria Wilson's great biography, certainly greatly exhaustive biography. It's like 840 pages. It only goes to 1940, which I think it ends with Remember the Night, a movie that Stanwyck starred with Fred McMurray. So I really, it's like, I think 12, 15 years since that Volume 1 came out. Volume 2 is still not out. I would have loved to have had the benefit of her research into the backstory of Barbara Stanwyck as regards to Double Indemnity. Next up will be another Barbara Stanwyck film in the collection. It's totally different. This is Preston Sturges, The Lady Eve, and a comedy with Henry Fonda, and photographed by John Seitz. Stanwyck was so amazingly, she could play anything. And in fact, Billy Wilder and Charlie Brackett wrote the screenplay to Ball of Fire, which came out a couple of years before Double Indemnity, a comedy, Sugar Puss O'Shea, where she's with Gary Cooper, where she's so delightful in that film. One of her better roles, as is the Lady Eve, and of course, again, Phyllis Dietrichson. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.